Very good morning to all of you. Hope you guys have done your homework. Yes or no? Only Neol?
Ma'am, what is Oma?
What about other students? Did not do? There was one homework given, arrange from smallest to largest, just to refresh your memory. Yeah, but I did not give you the answer, right? I told you that
Yes, ma'am.
you have to take a screenshot and you come up with the sequence and we'll discuss the answer. So have you done it?
Yes, ma'am. Done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What about the rest of the students who are not answering? But
That's
like to
right.
be happy? What about my rest of the students who are not speaking up but they like to be chatting? I don't know what happens when it comes to the session. But okay. I can come to know that
Sachit ma'am.
you like to chat. Sangram, it is even you. So let's say what answers you guys are giving me today. First one, those who have done first one, write your answer in the chat, but only for the first one. Please don't go and give all the answers. I just want answer for the first one. Whatever you have written, whatever on your best of the judgments, you have got the answers. You just write that. And I don't want same set of students answering every time. Huh? If I find that, I'll start picking up students. So please see to it that at least if you're not unmuting yourself, then you are at least taking a little bit of effort to write your answer. Otherwise, I'll start picking up the students. Ashish, you wrote twice.
Ma'am, second one is correct. I opened the file that I had written in class.
Okay. All right. For the second one, Suman, Ashish, Daniel, and Neol, you are not going to write the answer. Suman, Ashish, Daniel, and Neol, you are not going to write the answer for the second one. I want, okay, Kensho is writing, fine. I want students who I'm listing here also to write the answer. David, Ginatu, Arafat. Write your answer. David, Ginatu, and Arafat. Write your answer. Students, you don't have to solve it right now. If you are solving it right now, this was the homework, so answer should be ready. The only time you guys should be taking is writing in the chat because you guys are not answering. Okay. Now these students are not supposed to write any more answer. Again, students, first and second, do not write any answers. For the third sequence, For the third sequence, I want Yogaraj, Shubham, Segni to give the answer. Yogaraj, Shubham, Segni, give the answer. For the sequence number 3. And please be quick. For sequence number 3, Yogaraj, Segni, Shubham. Okay, fine. Fourth sequence, anyone who got the fourth sequence out of all the students of 33? Anyone?
Sorry, didn't get it.
Any student can give the answer of sequence number 4 if you have solved it. So write the answer. Those who have solved sequence 4, you can write your answer in the chat.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Krishna.
Ma'am, I have a question. Like, ma'am, in first, second, or third, whatever. Ma'am, suppose if I have 1, 2, 3, that time one is getter, and if I have more value, then one is getter. So, how can I say that this is always the getter?
When did I say this is all big data? This is big theta or big omega, or when did I say?
No, ma'am. So how like in first time we are doing like which one is getter, which one is getter, ma'am. If you give us the value like 1 to 5, then you can identify which one is getter, which one is lower. So for that now we don't have any limited value. So how can I say this one is greater or this one is lower? If
At
you give
one
any
point,
Mhm.
at one point of your input n, you will come to know that all the values greater than this particular nth value, you are going to get all the values greater. For example, from 1 to 4, you are not getting values greater. But after
Yes,
5, you will be supposing, because 5 you got a greater value. So obviously it is what? 6 is going to be the greater value. 7 is going to be the greater value.
yes.
5 becomes your n range. That from 5 onwards, that n range is going to be the smallest or say the largest.
Yeah, ma'am.
And I am again students telling to each and every one, I have not yet talked about any of the asymptotic notations. I am just talking about this is what all of this is what your order of growth. Order of growth, asymptotic, big O, big omega, they are different. Okay, so
Excuse me,
don't
ma'am.
confuse yourself.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Go on, Suman, please be quick.
I just wanted to say I have made a table with a value of all these data you have, all the question you have given. So if you want me, I can show them the range, like how the value changes with increasing range.
That you can share it internally with whoever wants to see it. Okay, those students who want to see it, you contact Suman. You can share it internally. Okay, fine. The answer for this. For the first sequence, kindly check your answers, and by chance anything is mismatching, kindly re-evaluate your answers accordingly. The answer for the first sequence is 1 log n log n square, n cube, 2 raised to n and n factorial. For the second sequence, the correct answer is square root of n log n plus n square plus n cube, 2 raised to n. For the third sequence, the correct answer is log n log n square, n cube, 2 raised to n. And for the fourth sequence, the correct answer is n raised to log n, 2 raised to n factorial, n plus 1 factorial, 2 raised to 2 raised to n, and the last one is n raised to n. If you're getting this sequence, your answers are absolutely right. By chance, somewhere one or two space it is here and there, kindly re-evaluate your sequence again and check your answers. Okay, these are the correct sequences. Fine. We are starting with the analysis of algorithm today, the new topic. Just give me a minute. Okay. Now see, so far we have talked about order of growth, and for your simplicity in future, what I'll advise you guys is you remember this part of the table, um, the order of growth part, okay, this one, and the description. Okay, so by chance in the algorithm, if you are coming across, let's say, input size, for example, the search is sequential search where array size matters, okay, for the running time, then the order of growth is n. Like this, you understand and remember these two columns, okay, these two. It will help you in your analysis part. Fine. Now coming to this analysis of algorithm. Now see, we have implemented, we have written the algorithm so far. We have based on our written statements of algorithm, we have also implemented our programs in your labs as well as in your lower semesters. Okay, now we are coming to the analysis part of the algorithm. Now in the analysis part, you are taking into consideration some of the parameters, right? Because without those parameters, you are not able to do the analysis, correct? Now, first of all, before going to those parameters also, why do we require? So what is the goal of this? To compare the algorithms, that is the goal. On what basis? In terms of the running times. Okay, but other than that, the other factors that are now getting considered are also the memory requirement, the programmer's effort to write, how efficiently the program is written. Okay, these are also the factors that are now getting considered. Previously it was just limited to the running time, but now we are not just considering the running time as the goal of the analysis, but also these factors too. Now, what do we mean by running time analysis? Okay, it is determining how running time increases as the size of the problem increases. Size of the problem means how you are increasing the input size. Suppose input size is 3, then what is the running time? Suppose input time is 15, then what is the running time? Suppose input time is 30, then what is the running time? Okay, so this running time analysis is what? How your algorithm is going to perform based on the size of the problem as it goes on increasing. So input size can be given like what? Of number of this hash means any arbitrary value of elements in the array, or any arbitrary number of elements in matrix, or any arbitrary value of bits in your binary representation, your vertices or edges in the graph, right? Your input size can vary from these given inputs. Now, based on that, you have 3 types of time complexities. Okay, based on these time analysis, you have 3 kinds of time complexities, which you guys are now very well aware because of the discussion that happened in our lab session, right? That is best case, worst case, and average case. But one more thing I would like to tell you guys here is that now in the analysis part, as you can see here, other factors. So those other factors, your time and space, yes, they are getting considered. Time complexity, space complexity, they are getting considered for your analysis purpose. But there are 3 more, you can say, parameters that are getting considered now in even when a programmer or say an analyst is trying to analyze your algorithm. Those 3 new parameters, or say the 3 now commonly used parameters, is your network parameter, your power consumption parameter, and your CPU register parameter. Okay, how network affects. Now see, most of our applications are internet based, right? or you can say remotely accessed programs. So exchange of data packets that is happening, that is that exchange time based on your algorithm. Okay, so network complexity or say network analysis is also important now in your algorithm. Then comes your power consumption. Okay, how much power the algorithm is consuming for your hardware, because our algorithm runs on a hardware, right? And how many hardwares it is consuming, how much power those hardware are consuming is also one of the analysis now taken into the consideration, okay, regarding all those environmental issues that is going on right now. And the fifth one, you can say the factor that nowadays taken into consideration is your CPU registers. Okay, we are also, or say as an analyst of the algorithms, people are also considering how many CPU registers your particular algorithm is going to use or it is going to assign to its variables. Okay, so this was a little bit extra information, that it is not just limited to your time and space complexities, but there are other factors also. Fine. Going with the discussion of this best case, worst case, and average case, which you guys, I know, or I'm pretty confident that it is totally understood by you by now, because we took that example of t-shirt finding in your cupboard, correct, in our respective lab sessions. So what is the best case time complexity? If your algorithm is taking minimum amount of time to run the completion of a specific set of input, okay, the input is of very specific kind and it is of specific set, okay, then you can say that it is a best case time complexity, and it is providing you what, the lower bound of the running time, or say lower bound on running time. Lower bound means this is the minimum time this particular algorithm is going to take. It is not going to take any less or any more than this. This is what your best case minimum amount of time to run the completion of a specific set of input. If you want to understand this easily, taking that t-shirt example, you just open the cupboard and t-shirt is right in front of you, right? So it is what your best case scenario is. You did not go and put any efforts to search, so minimum amount of time. Okay, coming to the opposite case, that is the worst case time complexity. So if an algorithm is taking maximum amount of time to run the completion of a specific set of input, you are calling it as your worst case time complexity. And it is providing you what? The upper bound of the running time. Upper bound means this is the maximum limit this particular algorithm can take to compute your output. Okay, and if you want to relate it with your t-shirt example, that means the t-shirt is either found at the very end of the pile, okay, or it is not present only. Fine. Coming to the average case time complexity. Average case time complexity is what? The average amount of time to run the completion for the specific set of input. Okay, and it is what? The prediction about the running time. Because obviously your average case is going to be in between your lower and the upper bound. You cannot say that this is the specific value of the average case. Just like as you said that specifically that best case provides you the lower bound, worst case provides you the upper bound. So that becomes what? A specific thing. In average case, we are saying that it is giving the prediction about the running time. Okay, so that was your best case, worst case, and average case. And I'm pretty much confident that it would be clear to all of you. Still, if you have any questions, anyone? With respect to these three terms.
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. Now, we did consider the factors. We came to know what are the factors. We came to know the time analysis factor and the complexity that it is taking. But how to compare? Right? For example, if a university wants to compare the results, let's say we take an example of results, right? You guys are getting individual results of all of you, individual SPI and CGPS. Based on that, you get your rankings. Okay, that this A student is first, B student is second, C student is third, right? Or in a very, if we come out of student and we compare the class results, then it can be said that okay, the computer class of TC3 is ranked first amongst the university, or let's say computer class of ITD1 is ranking second amongst the university classes. So this is what our comparison, parameter of comparison. And what is the parameter of comparison here? Your CGPA or your overall class result, right? So in the analysis of your algorithm, you need some parameters. Okay, you need to define the number of objective measures. Now, how can you judge that this objective measure would be good? Can you consider the execution time? No. The reason? It will become specific to a particular computer. If you take one algorithm, you run it in supercomputer, you run it in Pentium 4. Both will take their respective times to give you the result. Result is for sure to be. We are very confident that result is going to get, but the time to compute that result, okay, is different. So that's why it is not good to compare on based on execution time, because power of supercomputer and power of a Pentium 4 processor, okay, they are very different. So you cannot take it as a base for comparison. Okay, can we go on the number of statements that particular problem we are trying to solve? Let's say I'm giving you a swap function. Some of you will go with 3 variables. Some of you will go with 2 variables, right? So can I say that I can take the number of statements written in the algorithm as a parameter to compare the algorithm? Again, no. The reason that different individual is going to use different language, and because of those languages, okay, the algorithm size and length will differ. Though the answer I'm going to get is same only. One algorithm is using 3 variables to give me the swap value. One algorithm is using 2 values to give me the swap value. Okay, but the number of statements are different. So again, this cannot be my good option of comparison. Then what is the ideal solution? We go with the running time. Okay, see, execution time and running time, they both are different. So don't get confused. We are expressing the running time as the function of input size n. Okay, and that function we are representing it as f of n. Okay, so anywhere you are now, from now onwards on this slide, anywhere you are getting the notation f of n, that means it is running time of your given algorithm. That is what you need to understand. Okay, when you compare different running functions, okay, corresponding to the running times, you can now set that which algorithm is efficient to which one. Okay, and such analysis is independent of your machine time, of your programming style, or you can say your potential of your hardware. Okay, it is independent of that, and it is an ideal thing also, right, to compare the algorithm to calculate the efficiency. So from now onwards, anywhere if you are getting f of n, you have to understand that it is running time as a function of input size n. Okay, this n is what? Your input size, and f of n is the running time function. For example, and there is one example that I have kept for you. Let's say I want to assign, simply, I want to assign just values to my array indexes. Okay, and my array is of size n. N value are not defined, but array is of size n, and I want to assign 0 value to each of my indexes in the array. Okay, so how we are going to calculate that which one is good one and which one is not so good? Okay, so simply understand that whenever there is a statement in your algorithm, okay, that statement is of initialization, or let's say declaration, anything, any statement, okay, it is of 1 minute only. So the time taken by that statement to execute is around 1 minute only. That is, we are assuming 1. Okay, it can be millisecond, it can be minute, but we are taking it as constant 1. Okay, so we are associating what? The cost, that is known as cost of it, each statement. And to compare the efficiency, or say the which algorithm is more better, what we are doing, we are finding the total cost. Okay, and by finding the total number of times each statement is executed. How we are finding the total cost? By finding the number of times each statement is getting executed. Now look at this algorithm 1, where we are assigning 0 values to n-1 arrays. Okay, array ARR of 0 is equal to 0. It is running just once, so cost is C1. Again, ARR of 1 equal to 0, cost is C1. Again, ARR of 2, cost is 0, again C1. This is going to continue till which state, or say till which index? n-1 index. Okay, n is my size of array. So n-1 index equal to 0. So when you do the addition, the total cost of this particular algorithm 1, it is what? C1 plus C1 plus C1 plus C1 till Cn times, C1 n times, right? So if you want to write this, you are going to write the cost of this algorithm 1 as C1 into n times, right? Now come to the algorithm 2. Now see, this algorithm 2, we are doing the same thing, but we are finishing our work in 2 lines of statement. Here we wrote what? n-1 lines, right, to do the same job. But here we are making our job done by executing just 2 statements. One is your for loop and another the statement inside that for loop. So obviously your for loop is not going to run once, so we cannot assign C1 cost there. So that's why C2 cost. Now C2 cost means, it does not mean that the for loop is running 2 times. Please be aware of that. We are not assigning C1 because this for loop statement is not going to run once. It is going to run till I is less than n. Okay, so that's why a different cost notation for it. But it does not mean that for loop is going to run twice. Please don't understand like that. Okay, inside the for loop, this statement is running just once, right? It is not repeating itself. So C1 cost is given. Now if you calculate, because we don't know what is n value, okay, so in general if we write, okay, then it will be what? N plus 1 into C2 plus n into C1, right? Because it is going till n-1. Okay, so n into C1 plus n plus 1 into C2. So if you simplify it, the answer of the cost that you are getting is C2 plus C1 into n plus C2. Okay, so based on this, and now to compare which algorithm is efficient than which one, obviously you are going to take some real constant value of C1 and C2. Okay, so based on those constant values, and then you go and compare algorithm 1 and 2, you will come to know that which one is efficient, more efficient than the other one. And this is just an example.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
What is that n plus 1? How come that?
Because the for loop is going to get checked for one more time. See, suppose my n value is 5. Okay, suppose. Now for my 4th running time, that means when my I is equals to 4, okay, it is going to check what? 4 is less than 5, right? Then it is going to go and compute ARR of 4, right? And then it is going to execute this statement, I value 5, right? Now again this for loop is going to run. For I is equals to 5, it is going to check 5 less than 5, and then it is going to return what? That it is false, and then it is going to terminate itself. But the computation of this for loop did happen, so that's why n plus 1. Okay.
Ma'am, excuse me.
Yes, Shubham.
Can you repeat that? I don't get it.
What didn't you get?
Formula that n plus 1 into C2 plus n into C1.
See, take n value as 5. Capital N value as 5. Right? We are starting from I is equals to 0. And we will go till I is equals to 4 because this is my array. 0 to 4. Correct? Yes or no, Shubham?
Yes, ma'am.
Now the for loop does not know that array is filled up. So what it is going to do, once it computes ARR of 4 is equals to 0, it is going to increment the I value, right? So I value now from 4 it becomes 5. Again this for loop is going to run because I is equals to 5, and it is going to check this condition then. 5 less than 5, it is false. So now the for loop is going to terminate, but at least it ran for it. It did not go inside the statement because of this 5 less than 5 equal to is false, but it did run through this condition. So computation time will get added to it. Now are you getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Segni, I suppose the same doubt.
Yes, ma'am. Clear. Thank you.
One more student, I guess, was Dereje. I hope the things are clear with algorithm 1 and algorithm 2. Okay, we are trying, what I am trying to explain you here is that when the goal of getting any output is same, what is the goal here? Each index value in the array should have value 0. But the method is different, right? One professor is going to go with one method, another professor is going to go with the second method. Answers are going to be the same, right? Only
Excuse me, ma'am.
steps are going to get varied. So that is what I'm trying to explain here. Tilawan, just a minute. Okay. And this is the concept. That's why this example, you don't have to, remember this. What is the C1 and what is the C2, or if anywhere this question is getting asked, you don't have to remember that it's going to get C into n times or C1 plus C2 into n plus C2 times. You don't have to, remember this, but you have to understand this.
Ma'am, which one is better in these two?
Suman, that depends upon what C1 and C2 value you are going to compute.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Tilawan, what was your doubt?
Yes, ma'am. Here, the cost is related to memory management or what?
That all depends on your real values of C1 and C2 that you are taking up. C1 and C2 are your constant costs. Okay. Cost you are taking, for example, see, I told you that for the simple statement in your algorithm, the cost is 1. Okay. And then afterwards, you have to all again come back to this order of growth and description. That's why I told that you need to, at least remember and understand these two parts.
Hello, ma'am. You can't hear.
Just wait. Able to see the screen now? And voice is clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Fine. Now see, in this asymptotic analysis, you have total, right now we are going to discuss around 3 asymptotic analysis. Total there are 5. Asymptotic notation is what? It is a language that allows us to analyze algorithms running time by identifying the behavior as the input size changes, increases or decreases. Okay. And you can say it is your algorithm's growth rate also. So for example, if you want to implement it in a graphical manner, 2D graphical manner, okay, it is what, like going to help you to, based on these asymptotic analysis, it is going to help you with that graphs. I'll show you. The first one, okay, it is big O, known as big O, and it is commonly written as your capital O. Okay, and it is the asymptotic notation for the worst case. Now one more thing I would like to tell you here is that it is not necessary, or it is not a compulsion, that if it is worst case you are going to represent it with big O. You can these cases, this worst case, this best case, average case, you can represent using all the notations, big O, big omega, theta. Okay, but yes, big O is commonly used for worst case studies or worst case analysis, but that does not mean that it is the only asymptotic notation to represent the worst case. Okay, big O notation defines what? The upper bound of the algorithm. That means this is the maximum the algorithm is going to take the running time. Okay, so f of n is your algorithm runtime. Now again, these are some of the terms which you need to remember. Okay, because from now onwards I am going to use f of n and g of n. You should not be confused with the terms what is f of n and what is g of n. What is your f of n? Your algorithm running time. Okay, and what is your g of n? It is an arbitrary time complexity that you are trying to relate with your algorithm runtime. Okay, it is an arbitrary means a randomly taken time. Okay, because why random? Because g of n is dependent upon the size of what input you are going to give. An input size can vary from user to user. It is always going to be greater than n0, but it is not of fixed size, right? And that's why we are comparing the algorithm, that what is its behavior when the input size changes. Okay, so f of n is what? Your algorithm runtime. Fine, which an analyst is going to analyze on based on that. And g of n is what? Your arbitrary time complexity that you are trying to relate with your algorithm. Okay, and g of n, okay, it is what? Consisting of some real constants c and n0. Okay, g of n is based on behavior of g of n will be based on what? The n values. That means the size of n, input size n. And if you want to show the relation with respect to big O notation between your f of n and g of n, then this is the statement. Okay, if we satisfy this mathematical statement, we can say that f of n is big O of g of n. Okay, when we want to state that f of n is big O of g of n, then this mathematical relation is to be satisfied. When this relation is satisfied, we can say that f of n function is big O of g of n. And what is the function? F of n is less than or equal to c into g of n. What is this c? Again, a real constant. Okay, a c value is again a real constant that you are going to compute, and this c value should be greater than 0. Okay, real values but greater than 0. Am I clear to all about mathematical statement to be satisfied? Yes, you can.
Can you explain the function g of n once again?
G of n is an arbitrary time complexity. Okay, And this g of n is what? The input size n. So if n size varies, obviously the g of n, arbitrary time complexity for that will vary. For example, if you take n is equals to 4, then obviously the arbitrary time complexity that you are going to take will be much smaller than the input size. Let's say you are taking as 100, right? If we talk in general terms, you know that if I give 4 inputs to be sorted, and if I give 100 inputs to be sorted, then the time complexity of input 4 with input 4 is going to be less than the time complexity of 100 inputs, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So that is what the arbitrary time complexity is generalized in the form of function denoted as g of n. Okay, and if you want to find the relation that whether f of n is actually the big O of g of n, then this is the mathematical equation, or you can say this is the mathematical property that you guys have to satisfy for. And in this, what is the c? It is again your real constant taken. Again, this is what a constant which is defined by the programmer or say the analyst. Okay, you will understand, there are examples also, you will get it. And with this particular, this expression, you are also going to determine that what is the upper bound of n, that means to which maximum value of n this particular condition is getting satisfied. For example, you see in the example, it will be more clear. See, this is the example. Okay, if I want to find what, that at which particular value of n big O of f of n is satisfied. Okay, or in simpler words, when is f of n less than g of n? Okay, because see, that is the mathematical equation I want to satisfy, right? F of n less than or equal to c into g of n. So if I remove that constant, then f of n is when does, at which input range f of n, my f of n is less than g of n. Okay, so we are going with what this is, and see, this is like 1 marker or a 2 marker question that might get asked in a competitive exam also, not just at university levels. So in the question, it will be given to you that f of n is equal to 2n plus 2. Okay, and g of n, the value is n square. Okay, now you have to find out that whether f of n is big O of g of n square, right? You have to find out. So we know the mathematical expression, f of n less than or equal to c into g of n, right? So you compute f of n value, 2n plus 2 less than or equal to c into g of n, so that is n square. Okay, now what we want to simplify these two sides, left hand side and right hand side, and in order to do that, we are taking a constant value for c. Again, see here, none and anywhere it is not written that c value should be this only for this given function. C value should be this specific. Just the condition is c value should be greater than 0. So suppose I take 1, because what is my aim? I want to simplify this particular expression. So I take c is equals to 1. So what is my next step that I'm getting? 2n plus 2 less than or equal to n square. Okay, now in the table, if you write, okay, this is my f of n, this becomes my f of n, and this one is my g of n, right? Now if you form up a table and you start computing n value starting from 1, because again, what is the condition here? N is greater than n0. N0 means the n is equals to 0 value. Okay, so we are not taking 0 here, we are starting with 1. Compute 1 in this particular function. So 2 plus 2, so that becomes 4. And this is my mistake here, this should be 4. Okay, and g of n is what? 1. So here the function is not satisfied. Why? Because f of n is bigger than g of n. So input range starting from n equal to 1, not valid. Okay, go for 2. 2, so f of n, the number is what? 6. G of n, the number is 4. Again, 6 is greater than 4, so again input range starting from 2 is not valid. Go and compute for 3. 3 f of n, you get the value 8. G of n you get value 9. Here f of n is less than g of n. So from now onwards, okay, so from 3, 4, 5, 6, your f of n value, what we can say in general mathematics terms, that from 3 onwards, my values of f of n are going to be less than g of n. So if you want to write a statement based on these observations, what you can write, for n greater than 2, we can obtain f of n less than g of n. And this is the analysis of big O. Okay, you think in terms of analyst. Okay, so if you want to write a general statement based on this observation on the table, okay, what you can write, that n is where for every value of n which is greater than 2, okay, we can obtain f of n less than g of n. Now you are getting what we are trying to do with big O. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes, Suman.
ma'am, for n greater than 2, that is when input value is 3, suppose, we are getting the true condition, that is fn is less than gn.
Okay.
So does that mean that after input of 3 values, we are getting to the worst case?
So when did I say it is worst case? Students, you guys are, mixing up worst case, best case, average case, and this asymptotic notation. Right now, you understand what these concepts are. Whatever you have, see, why I'm telling you to keep aside what you have, read so far about worst case and big O relations is because it is hindering you the knowledge of, or say the concept clearance on these topics. You guys are constantly talking about big O and theta notations when I'm talking about best case and worst cases. Okay, and big O theta notations, yes, they are related with those cases, but right now you understand what is big O, why it is called big O. We are going to go in that, because see, further if I go with the methods, okay, analyzing the control statements, see, everything is going here. See, time is order of n5. If I even talk about your linear search, we are going to go and discuss everything, but right now you don't mix those two concepts. It is hindering your process of getting clear on the topic of what is big O and big omega and theta. I know you guys have read it online everywhere. You must have even completed some kind of a courses when you were doing your data structures. Everything is fine. But right now you don't go and say that it will be the worst case after we go with 4 or 5. Because we don't know what is the actual algorithm here. We are just taking it a random f of n mathematical function. Right? We don't know whether it is for a swap function, whether it is for a searching function. What does this 2n plus 2? That we don't know. This is just an example right now. Now, are you guys getting it or not?
Ma'am, can you please show the previous slide?
Yograj, Sunny, Shubham, are you guys now clear? Yes or no? Where you guys are getting confused or what you did not understand, can you throw some light on that? G of n is an arbitrary time you are taking for given input set. For example, my input set is n square. That means perfect square set. Go back to your unit 1. Unit 1, set theories, input set. If I'm telling n square, that means the arbitrary time complexity I'm going to take is for my perfect square set, G of n. Now, able to clear the air?
Ma'am, why we need to compare Fn to Gn?
Because we want to know whether it is f of n is big O of G of n. Suman, this question was not expected.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Krishna. Little bit loud, please.
Hello, ma'am. Now clear?
Yes, it is clear, but it is slow. Go on. I can hear. Go on.
Okay. Ma'am, why we are taking C equal 1? Suppose, is there any rules to take any of value like C equal 1?
That's what I said, students, my dear students. The only thing we need to take care is C value, which is a real constant C, should be greater than 0. And the purpose is to keep our, these two functions as, simpler as possible. You can take C value as 2, then it is going to be what? 2n square.
Yes.
So your computation will be with respect to 2n square.
Yes, yes. That time the rules may be different.
No, the only thing that you need to take care is C value should be greater than 0. Okay? And the size of input, your input size, okay,
Yes.
n should be greater than n0. That means it should not be just only one input. N0 means only one input. N0, N1, N2, N3, right?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Any more doubts here?
No, ma'am.
Anyone else? Any more doubts? See, right now, why I am telling you guys that you don't compare it with the worst case, obviously it is going to be the question that it is an asymptotic notation for the worst case. It is clearly written here. But right now, why I am telling you guys that you don't compare it with those cases is because you have not completely understand. You don't have full knowledge of this big O, big omega and theta concepts. And it is confusing you more. So keep those two right now, these two topics aside, side by side. And when the time comes, yes, we are going to discuss them. Because by those times, you will be able to understand how to analyze these control statements, how to analyze your linear search pseudocodes. Okay, then you see, then we can say average case, worst case, and best case with the order of 1 and order of n, everything is there. But right now, you keep these two concepts clear. All right, we are going to take a pause here. Hopefully in the next session, things would be more clear for you. Okay, because these things, there are examples also which I have kept for your understanding. Okay, and some examples you have to solve. All right, and then we'll go with big omega. Even big omega has the same, mathematical condition to be fulfilled. Okay. Fine, we are keeping it till here. We have seen what is big O and one example. In the next session, we'll continue from here. Thank you all for attending this session. Kindly write your numbers in the chat and you are free to leave the session. Thank you.